In 2016, I had a flipping company that I had worked to build over the previous 5 years with my two partners. We had flipped about 70 properties at that point. We had a nice office. We had about 13 staff members. We were doing lots of deals. We had about 22 deals going in various stages at that point. And like a lot of other real estate investors that you'll see on social media, our social media was on point. We had great before and after pictures. We portrayed success really well. We had all the trappings of success. We made millions of dollars a year. We were a multi-million-dollar company. It all looked great, but there was only one big issue, and that was that I was totally broke. I'm told in the South they call this big hat and no cattle. We were doing all the things that people we thought looked successful did. The only problem was we didn't have any real financial success to accompany it. We had made millions, but the only problem was my bank account was empty. And I even had credit card debt on top of that because I was using credit cards to pay for some personal expenses. To right this ship and go from broke to financial freedom was definitely not easy. It required me to basically totally reinvent my business and shift my mindset. And in this video, I'm gonna share exactly how I did it, some of the lessons that I learned in the process, and then also, if you're in this similar situation, I'm gonna share some steps you can take to immediately gain clarity and start to actually make some financial progress. One of my favorite books is Profit First, which is all about how to prevent this whole situation from happening, where you work really hard, you make a whole bunch of money throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, you check your bank account and you have nothing to show for it. How does this happen? Well, in a mastermind that I'm a part of, we recently talked about how this whole phenomenon applies to real estate investors, and that's what inspired this video. So the way this happened for me was that we had a whole bunch of revenue coming in, and it almost served as a distraction from the fact that we weren't making any true profit and we weren't accumulating any assets. And maybe you can relate to this, but it always seemed like there was something that we just had to spend every single dollar that we made on. Or maybe you've been in this situation in your business where you pay yourself from a business that actually didn't make any profit. So your company is spending just as much as it makes or more, but at the end of the month, you do some sort of mental trickery where you convince yourself you made money because you moved it from your business checking account to your personal checking account, and you think, well, I must have made money then. If I'm describing you, then the first thing you need to do is just stop. I can tell you, it doesn't get easier by continuing to do this over and over and over. You've got to make profit, and then you've got to pay yourself from that profit. That is the only way to operate. Don't buy in to the stupid saying you got to spend money to make money. Instead, try the saying you've got to make money in order to spend money. Set that as your new rule and stick to it. I know that doesn't sound as fun, and it's certainly not as popular in our culture, but I hope it catches on because I can tell you firsthand it's totally changed my life. So back in 2016, I realized that this lunacy was unsustainable, and I walked away from the business that we had built with my credit card debt, no income, no ownership of the brand that we had built, and I basically started over from scratch. But you know what? I felt freer than ever because I was determined that I would not spend a penny until I made it first. So I didn't go out and buy business cards. I watched tutorials and made a very basic website myself from scratch. I found a free bookkeeping software, which was terrible, by the way. I don't recommend it long term. And I scrounged. I didn't have a marketing budget. I just went out and I turned over every rock I could find until finally I found a great deal. It's incredible how quickly you start to make progress this way. Because when you don't have a marketing budget, you know what you don't spend time on is figuring out your marketing. And when I didn't have employees, I didn't spend a whole lot of time figuring out employee issues or org charts or performance reviews like I had previously. And when you don't have money coming in, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time balancing the books. So all the time that you'll spend on these other things in future stages, you can totally devote to finding deals for free, with sweat equity. And if you approach it like this is the only thing that's important, you're really gonna start to see some true traction. I started getting deals pretty quickly from the free sources. So I called all the wholesalers, I called the for sale by owner ads, I called the Craigslist ads. I targeted all the listings, the for sale and for rent listings that have been on the market for more than 90 days because I know that's when the owners really start to want to negotiate and they start to get pretty motivated. First, I found a deal that I could wholesale and make some quick cash and pay some bills. And then I started to find some other deals that I bought as really solid long-term rental properties. So over the next 3 years, I went from broke to having over $1 million in equity in my properties. And I went from bootstrapping to buying, rehabbing, and renting really solid rental properties and taking the cash flow from those properties and investing it back in my business and growing my business the right way. So even though most of that money is in the form of equity in the rental properties, it's there. And when I look at my balance sheet, it doesn't show that I have 0 assets because all I'm doing is flipping. It shows a column of assets, the rental properties, and another column of liabilities, the long-term debt against those assets, and every month that spread grows. If you're interested in growing your business similarly to the way I did, I've got several resources that I think could help you get started. Just go to livingoffrentals.com/resources. These are free resources because, again, of course, you're not going to spend any money until you've made it. Another great free resource that you can check out is the Living Off Rentals Facebook group. Just go to the link below. There's some really sharp investors that hang out in that group, and there's some really great conversations that happen. Also, if you enjoyed this video, if you got something out of it, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway was. Also, you can let me know if there's another topic that's rental property investing related that you have a question about or you think would make a great video, because that's where I get a lot of the ideas I have for these videos. Speaking of videos, you can check out one of the other 2 videos that just popped up. I hope to see you in the Facebook group, but if not, I'll see you in the next video.